Welcome. It's the 1212 portal and lots of exciting things happening, lots of energy, lots of shifts. I'm so glad everybody's here, ready to play, ready to work, ready to flow in the two streams that are the predominant streams right this minute of energy. And we'll talk about all of that. So again, if you like, go ahead and quiet behind in the background. Go ahead and unmute yourself and say hi, and then we'll get rolling.
Hello, this is Jeannie Marie out in California.
Hi, Jeannie. How you doing?
Doing all right. Just wrapped up my day or my midday out here, and been waiting and looking forward to this.
Great.
Hi, BZ. This is Kim Hagstrom, and I'm in California right now. Hi, Jeannie. And I'm so looking forward to playing here, and I'm just super excited, and I'm feeling great.
Hi, BZ. It's Taliesin here. I'm in Northern California.
Hey, Taliesin.
Hi. It's been a funny day. I swear it was 2 o'clock just a minute ago, and I looked up and I said, oh, my God, it's 4 o'clock. It's like one of those days.
I did that today. I was
so this is exciting. Okay, I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. So one of the things I wanted to start with first is to have everybody who's on the call, who's physically on the call now, who's joining the call, who's listening to the call, all of those various things, because we're multidimensional, is to just tune in not only to the call, but reach out energetically to Randy in Tennessee. He has not had the ability to communicate much lately because of some things that are going on there. So we're going to do a telepathic reach out, and if he chooses his higher self to come on the call to reach out to that, and he'll feel this as well. I figure everybody who does it every time they listen to this and does that reaching out, we can pull him right in to play with us. So the 1212 portal is a very cool portal. It's started happening already around the 9th or 10th, depending on how people experience things, and it will flow past the 1212 portal. We were talking the other day how the energy is already ramping up, and I would think it's safe to say that you won't see the energy ramping down ever again. One of the things I just wanted to start with for everybody to kind of get a broader perspective of is that if you think in terms right now of two streams of reality flowing, and in the intro to the call on the blog, I put up that the grace period is closing of, pulling the pillow over your head and resisting waking up, resisting, the truth of who you are, being love, and coming from that perspective, that frequency vibration. So if we can think of two streams of energy, one stream of energy, and in each stream, there you might describe it as different channels within the stream, or different, maybe like if you just look at lanes on a highway. So one stream of that is those beings who know that they're at least infinite and don't die at the end of this lifetime. A lot are familiar with the idea of being creator beings, being more familiar with that, all the way up to have a full remembrance of everything. There is no veil left intact. So there's many different lanes within that particular stream. And then another stream is where people have been pulling the pillow over their head forever. Part of that, they've been actively participating in that. Part of that has been a conditioning, a more extreme conditioning than what the rest of us got through programming, through circumstances in their life, through intentional conditioning, because they came in with a mission to be very active, and it's been important for that to be thwarted. So again, in that stream of not being awake or not paying attention or not really listening to the own inner guidance, the own inner nudges, there are multiple lanes within that stream. And the reason that I set up the preface this way is that where we are in this moment of flow of energy, all of the revelations, all of the crumbling down, all of the old ending and the new, which has already begun, but really sprouting. So, if we were a garden, we've got, the whole hill of beans is already about 5-6 inches up, and it's going to take a foot spurt growth. So with all that happening, the second stream, if you will find themselves in a position where all these things are happening and they have no reference point. They don't understand it. They're not sure what to see when they look around. They're not sure how to connect with it or really what's going on. They know something's wrong. They know something's different. They know things are changing fast, but it's very hard to have any kind of frame of reference or foothold for themselves. And again, within that stream, the different channels, the different lanes, some people one thing will catch their eye and they'll wake up very quickly, or they'll connect the dots very quickly, and then they'll start to see. And for the other stream, which is mostly of the people on this call, listening to this call, again, depending on the lanes that you're in that stream of already being awake and empowering yourself, standing in your power, stepping up, there are some that flip-flop that we saw. Sheila was doing a little bit of that the other day. Sometimes we're really clear and knowing how amazing brilliant and creator beings that we are in a lot of areas, but in one or two areas we can't seem to get that pillow off our head. So there are 3 words, and when you give voice to something, it gives it a lot of power. So there are 3 words that come to mind that have very all-encompassing energetic vibrations that are helpful at this moment, and that's knowing, and trust, and compassion. And if we can all hold those things in whatever those words mean to us, and whatever we feel into the frequency vibration of those words, for ourselves being in the stream of awake and aware, becoming more expansive each moment, and have that knowing of our inner truth, have that trust in all of our intuition. We may call them guides, we may call them our team, we may call them a whole host of language that different people refer to them as, but have a trust that your intuition, which could be a broad way to describe that for all of those different beings that are helping you, is there for you. It's there to guide you, it's there to protect you, although you don't really need protection because that's an old construct. But anyways, that trust, and that's there. And compassion for yourself to start with, because oftentimes if we feel that we're having a rough day or a down day, or we're stuck on something, or however we might have a perception of something occurring, if we can go right to the compassion and then step firmly into the trust that we are expansive, and remember and tune into that knowing, then we can just choose. Remember, it's all a choosing point. We can choose and jump right out of that. And then the same thing when you're feeling with and playing with and come in contact with, encountering other beings who are what we classify for this moment just as, again, it's a frame of reference, in the other streams and the different lanes within that stream, to help them touch and experience that knowing, to trust it, even if they need to borrow your knowing for a moment, or your trust in that. And then also compassion for themselves, and you having compassion for them. So that's kind of just the place I wanted to start with, a jumping off point. And I'd love to have everybody come in, share what you're feeling around that, around what's going on, the energy, how it's ramping up for you, and how you're playing in the energies right this moment.
Hi, BZ. This is Kimmy. How are you?
Good, I'm good.
Good. I just wanted to say that I'm just being. I went through a recent period where I was really, angry sometimes, and stuff was being triggered and things were coming out, and I was blaming myself. And that's where I liked what you said about have the compassion for yourself, because as soon as I stopped and I went inside and I got quiet, I was like, this is happening for a reason. And I would get very quiet and listen, and a picture would always come to me, because I see a lot of things, and it would come to me, and I'd follow that all the way back and go, oh, this is what this is. And as soon as I did that, it was gone. It was just gone. And I'm finding those moments are very rare now. I'm mostly just generally very happy and finding love for myself and for the beings around me, and doing a lot of sending my intentions out and expanding my love in my heart for myself and for other people, and seeing situations like I send her love to Randy all the time. I imagine that I go there with him and we sit down and we have tea or coffee and we talk, and then we open the door and we just walk out. We're in a meadow together, and I'm like, this is where we could be. This is where you are. You're here right now. Just
wonderful. Out
that door, right? And I give him hugs, and we have like tea parties with bunches of people come in, and it's just great. So I try to do that with him about once a day. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. And I'm trying to do that with the people around me, and I envision just moving forward. I don't really deal with a lot of the old stuff. It just doesn't seem like it's there for me anymore. So I'm just seeing things that I want, feeling things that I want, and then they're there. I just create them in the still part, and then I go get them and I bring them back to myself, and then they're there.
Fabulous. Yeah, and you gave a great illustration of how you were at you recounted sometimes when the anger comes up and you follow it back, but you have compassion as you do that, rather than just meeting anger with more anger or more frustration. And in that moment, you're choosing the expansive route, the highest frequency vibration that you can reach at that moment. And of course, then you just, hop, skip, and jump all the way up into more and more expansion. So that's very cool. And sometimes when we're wrestling with things, I was talking to someone the other day on the phone, and I said, with what you're wrestling with and what you've shared, you may have to come to that choosing 150 million times in the next 24 hours. Sometimes that's what it takes.
And it's funny that you say that, because I thought this instance would be done when I got rid of it the last time. I obviously didn't get rid of it, and it came back until I followed it back with the compassion, and I self-talked. I was like, what is this? What's this? Right? And I went inside, and I went farther, and it was amazing how far you can actually go. It's like there's this infinite space, and I thought, I'm going to meet something here pretty quick, because there's this spot inside of me, and it was repressed from childhood, and it was really repressed. And when I got to it, it was like, oh, there you are. That's what this is. And then it was gone. It was gone. I was like, it really is. And now I know. It's like you said about the knowing. I actually know this time it's not coming back. Right. I don't have to guess about it. I just know that that's how that was. And the reason I know is because it was a compassionate stance I took with my own self, going, oh, the people around me, this is why this happened. I can see that clearly now. I can feel that that's why this happened. And I just loved him. I said, I love you. With my dad, I was like, I love you. I love myself. When I was little, this happened, and I was like, and so, it's all good. And I don't feel it. It's like a piece left me, so I could have more space inside to feel the good things, right? That's what it feels like.
Yeah. And since you're a multidimensional being back then and now, and you're really playing in it now, you actually, since it isn't past, present, and future, it's all in a quantum state. You actually can integrate it back then as well as integrating it now.
Yes. I have to. Okay.
That doesn't mean pushing it away. Sometimes people think, well, integrating, pushing away. No, it's just integration where you're looking at it's not lighting you up anymore, and you can just be the observer of something. And it was simply, a little bit of part in a story and you see it, what it was, and perhaps you can even acknowledge if there's any gifts or expansion there, and then move on from it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Yes.
And 760443 has your hand up. Go ahead and unmute if you know how to do that on the phone. Otherwise, I can do it for you. You wanted to say something? There, you're on. Who's this?
I think this is Ren.
Hey, Ren.
I didn't mean to have my hand up. I got a new phone and I thought it was muted.
Yeah, well, I can mute you again if you want.
Yeah, I'm not ready to talk right now.
All right.
Thanks.
I'll mute you. Who wants to play? Well, in the space, I'll then say that Kimmy mentioned something where she was playing with, I'm just paraphrasing, playing with something, and all of a sudden it was there. And I had an experience today. I think maybe once or twice a year, I happen to be in a space where I might go to Starbucks and get some hot chocolate. And today was one of those once in a while times. And as I was sitting in line, I had the thought, well, I'd like to do one of those things where I'll pay for whatever I'm getting, and then I'll pay it forward. I'll pay for the person behind me. And so I kind of looked at the car in front of me, and my first thought is, well, and again, this was a judgment, and a very linear one, but I'll share it. And I thought, well, that car strikes me as someone who might actually get the idea of the paying it forward and playing in that energy. And then I looked in the rearview mirror and I thought, well, that car doesn't strike me as someone who might do that. But okay, well, if I could switch them, maybe I could take one car and pick it up and swap them. And so I had this whole thing. I was playing with this idea, and it was a long line. So I thought, well, I like to do this. I want to do this, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I get to the window to order and make the order, and then you drive up to the window where they take your money, and the woman says, the car in front of you has paid for your order. and I said, well, cool, great. I'd like to pay for the one behind me too. And she said, oh, that's great. So, it could have been that the person in front and I were having this whole thought form and the playing with that idea at the same time, or a combination of those different things. But one of the reasons I share that is that right now and here forward, our abilities are coming online so fast and in such beautiful vibrancy that when we're feeling into things and we're creating things, they really do happen at Mach 5 speed, very, very fast. And it's important to embrace that and really know that and turn it into a deep knowing, because if you're focusing on something that you really don't want, like if I've been thinking, well, gosh, I hope I don't spill this hot chocolate that's hot on my lap, I would bring that to me just as quickly as the other playing. So it works both ways. There is no good or bad. Really, it's just our perspective of something and how we're holding it. So, if you want what you want, that's great. And you want to play with what you want to play with, great. And make sure that you want it to show up for you when you're playing with it, because it will.
Casey, can I say something?
Sure. Jump right in.
You were talking about the manifesting. I had an instance within the last year. My son was really sick. We had to go to the emergency. It was a $3,000 hospital bill. And I said, I'm not going to pay that bill. And I said out loud with my whole being, I said, these are the words I'm going to say. I said, that bill is going to have a zero balance. And the lady at the billing is going to call me, and her name was Olivia. And I said, she's going to say you have a zero balance, and she's going to call me today. And she's actually going to do it while I'm out driving around. So my son was with me. And guess what? A couple hours out got a phone call. I pulled over. It was Olivia. She said, you have to pay the $175 for the doctor, but the $3,000 balance, it's a zero balance. She basically said the exact words I said, and I said, thank you very much. I thank you very much, and that was it. That was it. I was like, well, there you go, right?
Yep. Well, that's it, and we can script it. So when you, just beautiful.
Yes, thank you.
And so when we're scripting that thing that we know where our wheels are spinning and we're, having that nattering, chattering in our head, really enjoy that nattering, chattering, because you're you're writing this, very detailed script that you probably will not like.
Hi, BC. This is Allison.
Hi. Yeah.
So I'd like to go and share some things. It's been pretty magical. I mean, my life has been magical for quite some time, but I certainly feel this intensity and confidence of exactly what you said, knowing, trusting that I do know, and compassion for myself. Those three things have always been near and dear to my heart, but extremely powerful right now. So I'll start off. Very interesting. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have heard of the fires going down in Southern California, Ventura, Santa Barbara, Ojai. And I lived in that area for 33 years of my life before I moved Northern California. My wife and I separated and divorced in late 2004. We remained very good friends, and we do care about each other, but the marriage was over, and it's time to go to a new classroom. So we did. But I heard about the fire, and I have oodles of friends and people down there that I know, and I thought, oh my God, and started checking in, and there was just a page of people I knew that had been evacuated in Ojai and Ventura, and I just put out energy of protection. And for my wife's house where she lives, it's a beautiful area near the beach in Carpinteria, and I just sent out energy wrapping the neighborhood and the house in sheets of rainbow light, wanting it to be protected, and so far it's standing. It's still there. So I think that is pretty miraculous, even though she's been evacuated 4 times. She evacuated from her house, went to a friend's house, who was evacuated from there, and so it's just like quite an adventure for her, and many other people too, of course. But I think that's pretty magical. I had a client. I had to go into town today. I live in a very small community, so I make runs into a larger town about every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And do certain things, pick up supplies that I need that are available here, but they're just not exactly what I'm looking for. So I had 4 items that I had written down over the past couple weeks of things I wanted to go, not big things, but small things I wanted for the kitchen. And I loved going to secondhand stores, and I wanted to pick up a sleeping bag for a homeless person I know that is really struggling. And I thought, well, okay, I finished my chores, and I went into this secondhand store, and it was like 3 secondhand stores I could go in. But I thought, which one should I go in? Which one? And I picked one, and I went in there, and lo and behold, all 4 items that I wanted were miraculously right there. Just like bing, bing, bing. And the 4th one, I'm like, where's that? Where's that? And one of the women that work in the store, she's stocking shelves, and out she comes, and there it is. She sets it practically right in front of me. So I was going, wow, this is amazing. So that was pretty cool. So that all happened today. Plus, I have a client, one client that works fairly close, and she's struggling in her relationship with her husband. I won't go into details, but it's been ongoing for some time, and been coaching her. And this morning, as I was driving out of the valley, I got this just intuitive message like, oh, she's going to call this morning. I can just feel it. And just as I got out of cell range, because there's a dead zone between here and where I was going in Willits, and as soon as I got in the dead zone, I thought, oh, she's calling. I just know it. And as soon as I got into the cell zone again in about half an hour, boom, the phone went off, and it was her, of course. And so I stopped and pulled over and called her and said, what's going on? And she told me. And I mean, I work with people a lot of time with their struggles and help them, and I love that. That's really what I'm passionate about. But I tell you, I have felt this overwhelming confidence this morning of I knew exactly what to say and to help her get her feet back on the ground, because she was completely ungrounded and just hysterical. And it was a miracle. Within like 10 minutes, she was completely had shifted, stepped back into her empowerment, and I got off the phone and I was like, wow, that was really cool. So I was like, I felt like the words, the language, the intuition, feeling into her husband's situation. Like I said, I won't go into a lot of details, but he's in an awful lot of agony, and of course it's being reflected out into her. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those things. I felt really, really amazingly powerfully clear and what to say and what energy to invoke. And I've just been riding high all day because of that. So yippee.
Yeah, very, very cool. And, you know, again, a beautiful illustration of exactly what is happening right this moment. And this relates to the second stream, if you will, that I was talking about, of people where they're not quite as awake, they're not tuned in, they may have actually been pulling the pillow over their head, and where the work, although I look at it as play, you described it as play, it's very expansive for you, and it's very expansive when you make that connection, this coherence, but of helping people navigate the different crumblings and chaos and stress and fear, and it will show up in a whole myriad of ways for all of the different people. And when you're doing that, you, Taliesin, and then all the other yous out there, it's your knowing and your creative brilliance and the ability that you have to use your frequency vibration to emit frequencies, to transmit frequencies to them, to hold them in a cocoon of energy that gives them respite for a moment from wherever it is that they are, so that they can clear enough of that static or dust or clutter or whatever kind of metaphor you might use to paint that picture of what's going on at that moment for them. And they can get a window of clarity that lets them really tune into their knowing. And this can happen, as you described, Taliesin, someone that you know, someone that you had a sense this was going to happen, and then do it. And it can also be someone that you've never met, and they're right there. You meet them on the street, or they're in the store or library, wherever it could be. And it can be an actual conversation where you're looking at each other and you're conversing, or just a comment, you know, maybe in the grocery aisle or whatever it is. But the very essence of you being there and standing in your creator beingness will really, it'll do the same thing that you did knowingly, Taliesin, with this client of yours, but you have the ability, should you choose to do that with all the others. So again, look at all the headlines, look at all the fires, all these different things. There's so much stuff that's happening, and it's continuing to happen. It's going to actually pick up even faster. We feel that it's a little faster now, but it's slow compared to the next week to 10 days, a little bit more as we finish out 2017. How that will flow. So that's where the real work and the real play is, to help people do that. That's part of the roles and the missions that we all came here with right this moment.
Yeah, very good explanation, BZ. As you were speaking, I remember, of course, this is something that's happened in my past, but many, many years ago, when I finally woke up, I was really in the infancy of my meditation practice. I really wanted to become my best self. To really grab a hold and pull in my higher self and get away from the low vibration thoughts and practices that I had all my life. And I asked in my meditation, I said, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to pull myself out of the quagmire that I've been stuck in? And the response was very quickly, very clear. It said, you need to reach out and cut the tow line from the boat that you're in, the vessel that you're in. You're tied to the dock. Cut that tow line and allow yourself to flow out into the flow of life, and don't be afraid.
Right.
And it was like a very clear picture. It was like I knew what I had to do, and I did it, scared to death, but I did it. And what I see now is that flow of life. Of course, what's happening is continuing. But as you say that, the flow is really increasing. It's really going faster now. And it's not a really rough ride, but it's turbulent some now and then. Mm-hmm. But I really I feel more confident than I've ever felt in life right now. And whoa, I really feel what you said there about coming towards the end of this year. It's going to speed up even more. And yippee, it's what I came for.
Right. And it is, and that's where one of those points of the compassion. So for some of us, and I'll say for me, I hold both voices and both perspectives oftentimes of, all right, I can't wait for this to happen. I'm so glad it's here. I want it to hurry up and expand more. And the people who are feeling like the world is crashing down and they're freaked out and they don't know what's going on, part of me says, well, you've been pulling that pillow over your head for a long time, and that probably wasn't such a good idea. And the other half of me, so they mirror each other, they're there right at the same moment. The other half of me says, you're doing great. Just take a deep breath. And so there is that compassion. There's a frustration that some aren't looking around and connecting and standing into their own magnificence. And then there's the deep compassion that because I know that myself was in these places and various things for the last 30 some odd years, sometimes just not only tons of bricks, but whole highways, falling on my head in the changes. So if we can, in other words, neither of those perspectives, neither of those feelings are good or bad and something to shirk from. But if we can add a soupçon more of the compassion and then the transmitting of the frequencies out to people to really help them, that will bring in more expansion and more joy for us. And it certainly will do a whole lot of joy and expansion for them.
Can I say something?
Sure.
It's about what you were just talking about with the frequencies with people. And I was thinking, a thought just came to me. Like if I spend more time, and I don't spend a lot of time online, but if I'm inside and I'm not out in nature or I'm not with people, I seem to be not disconnected. What's the word? It's harder to make a connection. It's easier for me to have feelings of, oh, come on, you guys, wake up or whatever. When I'm actually in the presence of people, like if I go to the grocery store and they just walk up to me, people just walk up to me and they have a story, and I feel it. I literally feel what they're feeling, mm-hmm. and I'm so connected to them in that moment. So when I go out more and I'm with people, actual human beings and other beings in the wider environment, my heart just overflows. Does that make sense? Like if I'm, like right now we're connecting through this digital, our computers and our phones and things like that, and we're achieving a certain level of connectedness.
Yes.
But for me, and we can send that information, our love, I can send that to you and you can actually feel that.
Yes.
So it has a purpose that way. But do you feel like when we get out with human to human contact, that energy just literally flows from one person to the next in a really visceral, what's the word I'm looking for? It just happens. It just happens like in the blink of an eye. What is Heather saying? A twinkling of an eye. It's just there, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's really powerful to do that. And this is the time to do both of those things, because sometimes, oftentimes you've got family, even though they may thought that you were the nut job in the family, not just you personally, but I refer to myself and all of us use out there. So you have friends and family in different places. They may not be right next to you, or acquaintances. So absolutely, I think if people do both, where they can go out and interact and shine their light in person in a tangible physicality way, and then think of different opportunities where they can do that. So in other words, for example, this is a time of season where people, it's holidays and all the rush and bother, I got to buy presents. So you're often interacting either on the phone or something with just someone who's at work, they're doing their job, and what you're doing intersects with them at work. And so it could be in person, but it could be on the phone or that kind of thing, or it's email interchange. Those are all opportunities, regardless of what the metaphor for why you came into contact with them is to be your absolute highest vibrational frequency and to connect with them on their highest vibrational frequency that they can hold in that moment, and let the shimmer and the sparkle, which you will really, as you practice, you'll start to see comes through in synchronicities, comes through in a way you might hear or feel their voice change. There's an expansion to it. So in other words, it doesn't have to be a giant thing. It can be just little tiny touchstone moments where you are playing a vital role in connecting with people and transmitting out what you've already tuned in within yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, that makes sense. Because at every moment we're multidimensional.
Absolutely.
So when I think to you, Beezy, I love you, I actually don't have to say it. I can close my eyes and I can see you, and I can take my heart and I can send it straight to you, because in that moment, it's just that moment. Every moment is the same moment, and that goes right to you. So I spend a lot of time when I meet people and come up upon people, or even on online Skyping or whatever. When I first enter into the conversation, I send my whole heart to them. I just take my energy and I just send it. With my open arms, I imagine me just sending it and handing it out to them.
Yeah.
Like you said, the little lights and the little rainbow colors, and it affects them immediately. It's like their whole vibration shifts, and it's like, oh, it's like, right? That's what it feels like.
Yeah, what I loved you brought up is a great picture for me, because one of the things I absolutely love doing is if I'm going into the library or a store, whatever it is, and before I even enter the door, kind of like sometimes there's, even when it's not holiday season, there's little bells or jingles on the doorknob or something. But before I get there, I just reach out and feel into the whole building, whoever's in there, and make sure that I'm always, it's my absolute priority to make sure that I'm always holding my absolute highest vibration in that moment for me, and then jumping it up more from there. But before I get there, so I've sent out this whole field and opened up an energy frequency bubble that will then, as I walk through the door, will envelop and flow through the whole place, whatever that is. And it's the same kind of thing what you were just describing of sending love, of sending a hello, of just that sense of, for me, I see it in colors and actual pictures. I guess probably some sacred geometry symbols as well, and send that out. And it's so fun to, when the doorbell jingles, an awful lot of heads turn. Now, this is a jingle that's been on this door, so if they've been in the store for any more than a moment, they've already heard it. But they turn, and they're looking at me, but they're looking more as if maybe there was a whole group of people who just walked through the door, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because you were so expansive.
And so they kind of look, off to one side or the other, or up, or like if maybe I'm taller, or and it's fun to play with that, and then just play with it some more. And because some will be more receptive to it, some will, on a lot of levels, although it may not be right on a physical cognitive level, recognize what's going on. And you can have the most amazing conversations where words are spoken or are not spoken in that moment. And that's the kind of thing we're in this moment now where it's so vital for us to all do that in person, electronic, however you can do it. Just thinking about some people, or thinking about Randy, or someplace you've never even had any connection to at all. You just pick a spot, someplace on the planet, and you start to do that. But that's really what it's all about. And that's what that's doing, is it's holding that vibrational frequency pathway or bridge so that they can then feel it, sense it, know it, trust it, and start to walk over it in whatever is helpful or a comfortable spot for them to do that in for themselves. Who else wants to play? Jump forward.
All right, Jeannie, I'm hanging over here, and while I was waiting and listening to the last few people speak, and I was focusing and gathering the different elements of the conversations that I could attach to, I recognized the synchronicity here. And at one point I bit my tongue. So I've been waiting to see if I was supposed to speak. I know at that point I wasn't. So I definitely, I've played on the conversations before, a little bit before, and I can speak to pretty much magical things happening whenever I go to town. I don't look for someone and create the experience, but I generally have an experience in interacting with somebody and affecting them. Or sometimes me, it's the one that's always I get expansion from it. But yes, I interact when I go into town, and otherwise, I've been down the rabbit hole quite a bit. So, excuse me, I don't want to go too, that's maybe why I bit my tongue. There's certain things I don't really want to bring to the conversation.
No tongue biting needed at all, just wherever you're moved to go.
I did. It's pretty ironic that I bit my tongue. It's not something I do very frequently. So I'm a healer. I'm a massage therapist. I had work today up until about 5 minutes before 4, and I was excited to get on the conversation. I am in Central California. My hometown is Santa Barbara. And when Taliesin was speaking, maybe that was, I wasn't going to get all into that. But yeah, we have some similar connection back there. But I don't live there now, and a lot of people I know are definitely evacuated, and there's some stuff going on that's not good. And in the rabbit hole of all that, I don't want to get into that. That's not pretty. That's not the exciting part. I have not had as much joy and excitement and reason to live and know why I'm alive as I have in the last 4 or 5 months. And it really has, gosh, there's different things building up to it. I've been awakening for 10 years or so, more, maybe more, but really kicked in the last few days. For me, I think it was Sunday, Monday. an expansion in my understanding of love. And maybe, forgive me if I sound like a toddler in this, but love being what it equals intention, action, and just that. Just your intentions align with your actions, align with your reality. And love is.
Yes.
Is anybody else there with me right now?
Well, yeah, love just is. And it's its own frequency, vibration, its own color, its own everything. So it's interesting that you described it that way. That's beautiful. Anybody else have a description on that?
I'll just elaborate a little bit because I need some help from it. I need some feedback from y'all. Because I know this is it. And so when we say we love something, or I love that, which we've all said throughout our lives in different ways for different reasons, it just shifted it all. Poof, like poof. It was just different. Sorry, I thought that was ridiculous. And so the essence of love and the whole thing of love, if there's only love is the maximum of love is where I'm going with this, is that your true intentions align with your actual actions, align with your reality. Isn't this where we're going?
Yes. And love is love. No one has to do anything to have love or be loved. And again, think of holding love and that frequency in a multidimensional way. So love exists there because it's everything. It's all encompassing. And it's a broad spectrum. You may have different perceptions of that. But one example from a more linear perspective, if you love someone and they do something that you might label as, well, that seemed annoying to me, but you haven't stopped loving. If you stop loving them, then you really didn't love them from the real sense and the frequency of the word and that emotion beforehand.
So there, I guess so I feel that we have cheapened the word love by using it the way at least I have in my life. Yeah. And I'm speaking for most everybody I know. Pretty much.
That would be
we found the word so broadly that it's hard for people to understand when we say, well, love is really the core of it all. And so they think that's this relationship crap that people are trying to figure out how to love Right. I'm in a 21-year-old marriage and I love my husband. But if I'm telling you that if love is when your intentions align with your truth, align with this, then to say I love him, no, I'm sorry, we don't align.
Right.
And I say that to him, and so I can say that openly. It's not a secret. I'm like, we don't. Well, he's not a bad person.
So you just illustrated, you did a good job illustrating again in what I'm feeling you say is that as it relates to you and your husband in particular, you have love for him, but you're also delineating it between love as the big expansive frequency and then specificity of love for your individuated partner of you and him.
Well, yeah, and this isn't really a marriage counseling session. I just was throwing that at him because I said that to him recently. But no, I mean, I'm looking at my kittens. I'm looking at the grass. I'm looking at the sky, the trees. I'm looking at everything. And so I don't know that. I'm sorry. It's not just him. So when we say we love something, oh, I love that flower, or I love that perfume, or whatever, the way we use the word love. What happened? I'm sorry. But if you're looking at it and you're saying, oh, I align with that flower, because that flower is connected to the earth and it's fully it's being its true and best self. So it does absolutely goes back to what I was hearing Tellison say, and how we go out, we want to be our true and best self. So when we align with our intentions, some people go out and want to be their true and best self, but they somehow screw up and they stop and have a drink and then they make a mistake and they do whatever. Or we just align with our true and best self. I'm not trying to, this is nothing personal, I'm just looking at flowers. I think it's the same. So we go out in that place of love, and whoever we align with will just like approach us. Love just approaches you. Other people that are aligned in that true intention. Well, yeah, I don't know. Sorry.
Well, for my feeling into an understanding and knowing of love, and love without end, love is all that it is on the fullest, broadest perspective. It doesn't need something to exist. So it doesn't need an external calibration of alignment in order to exist.
Okay. And that wasn't really even, it's kind of like the that. Go ahead.
Say that again, that you were muffled on that.
Yeah, so with that being the basis, if we, I guess where I was going with all of this is the excitement of what is really going on and the speed of things that are going on out there, the people that are not prepared for it, and for us to maintain this love that I'm just describing it in a different way maybe.
Yeah.
It's the same that we're all talking about. And I definitely, anyways, I experience and I play and I always connect with somebody and do my best to not necessarily describe what I just said, but make that connection. They feel a heart to heart, what we're talking about, where we feel our heart, we feel an energy go between two people, and it might be a stranger, it could be a homeless, what we consider a homeless person, or someone at the thrift store, or someone in the grocery store. Yeah, and connecting, and anyways, that's our assisting them, and it's getting heavy and fast, and I want to go out and assist more people, and I'm excited. Sorry.
And what a beautiful gift that you're giving to them and yourself. Because in that moment, not only is there the pure love, but there's that amazing expansion, which sets everybody else up, gives them, it's like building muscles of having more expansion and having more tuning into the truth of who they are.
Yes, almost, and they could pay it forward, and the next person they see, they can do their best to toss it off, or do better to toss it off. Let's say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Cool.
Easy, can I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking it when Jeannie was talking. What came to me was that love is, right? I am that I am. Love is a frequency that's always been here. Mm-hmm. It always is, because it's everything. It's consciousness. It's everything. The illusion is the fact that, well, not the fact. The illusion is that we've perceived it as being missing or absent or gone or less than, right, or anything else. It's always there. What's happening, I think, now is because of the energy and the consciousness is shifting. We have the ability to see the illusion for what it is. And I think Jeannie's right. That's part of that programming of what's happened to us, right? As all of humanity, that love has been less than, or it's been this, or it's been that. It's always been right where it's at, because it's multidimensional, just like we are. It's all that is. It's everything, and it has, the illusion of it has been that it's not there, or it's any different than what it is. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. And you're pointing to the intentional design and programming and indoctrination about exactly what love is. You've got this kind of love and that kind of love, and we got a card for love, and and a day for this, and all these kinds of things. And if you actually look at how that's all set up, you'll realize that they're all designs with specificity and particularity to be everything but love.
Right. It's like it's to create love in division. Which would separate us, when that's all that there is. I remember I read the Bible when I was very young, like 3 times all the way through. The only part I really remembered was I am that I am. That was it. And I knew the knowing, and I trusted that that's the truth, right? And then that's where that compassion that you were talking about comes in. Treat ourselves and love itself with the compassion that it is, because it's all those things. There's nothing that's not outside that frequency. That frequency encompasses the all, whatever all means to somebody, right?
Yes.
That's what it feels like. Thank you.
Yeah, and when people are playing with the all, so one thing that is very fun, because usually you will get an immediate, tangible, physical response to it when you think of the all, and you hold it that way. Then open up and do it in a demonstrable, conscious way to add a little bit more to the all. So, as you said, however people are holding that, and say, well, I'm not sure exactly what it is, or however you would phrase it, but there's more to this all. There's more over here. There's more in emotion, there's more in love, there's more in knowledge, there's more in capacity, whatever it is. And if you play with that, you will notice right away you get a response back from a physiological response back saying, yes, there is more. And that gives you another place to play even further expansion.
Right, because we're multidimensional, so we're limitless. And the fact that we be, our very being, the essence of our spirit is the love, the consciousness from our creator, that is what we are. There are no limits. So, like I said, the division, the creation, all the falsity, all that system that's crumbling down, is we're left standing with the shining thing. This is what this is. And sometimes it's hard to recognize it because we believe it to be other things. And now it's standing here, we're standing here, and we're embracing this frequency, which we think is a new frequency, which is really just the frequency of all that is.
Right. Right.
Hey, BZ, it's Allison again. I'd just like to jump in for just a moment.
Yeah. Jump in, play.
So a bunch of things have come up listening to the conversation. The first thing I want to share is, and this might feel off topic at first, but you'll see where I'm going with it. I'm a big John Lennon fan, love his music, love all his songs that he's created. Anyway, there was an interview that was done when he was living in New York, just shortly before his death, leaving the planet. But he was interviewed, and somebody asked him what was his favorite Beatles song. And of course, you all are going to come up with like your guess or your thought. His answer was, "All You Need Is Love."
Right.
And I think that was very powerful. I remember that song when it first came out, and I remember how silly I thought it was back then. But he's absolutely right. It was a powerful, powerful song. I don't know exactly who it was speaking, but I just wanted to throw it on the pile that, yes, Santa Barbara, I did my very first body massage class there at Santa Barbara Body Therapy Institute back when, and I've got a big, thick history there in Santa Barbara. But yeah, I know what you mean. And the fire, my viewpoint of the fires, all of the fires that have happened, they're cleansing. It's part of the awakening, part of the renewal. It's a good thing, although it's very hard to see the good in it right now. Let's see. Yeah, I wanted to speak to, I think it was you, BZ, that was talking about how when you were going in like a store or a library or anything, you feel into it with your energy. And that's grid work, in my opinion. I love grid work. I do grid work every day. One of the first things I do when I wake up in the morning is kind of going off and sweeping off the sidewalk. It's laying out the grids, feeling what's going on, and using your imagination and your intuition to focus on what do you want to do in that energy of the day. And let's see, the last piece I wanted to visit was, yes, again, I don't remember who it was that was speaking, but our abilities to communicate without technology, this is our quantum powers, I call them, and they're all coming online. We all have them. So as we trust more in our abilities, I certainly see that happening more and more and more. So this is fun. This is a great call. I'm having fun anyway. Hope you all are.
I'm having lots of fun. Who else is having fun? Come on, jump forward. Let's go. I know you're out there laughing and playing, and you're so sparkly you can't contain yourself, so share. Miss Sheila?
Yes, I had a feeling you were going to call my name. I was just trying to be quiet for once, for goodness sakes.
Is Miss Lisa anywhere near you?
She is, yes, sitting right here in the room.
So I have something I guess I could share.
Okay.
So I was having a desire to get my hairs did. And it's not really in the budget. And so I just kind of went for it, and I made the appointment. And I just said, you know, I'll manifest the money, and I don't exactly know how. And then we got this invitation to do a pop-up shop, to be a vendor. And, you know, I crochet things, and I have a bag full of scarves because crochet is part of my meditation technique. And so I have a lot of scarves. So I thought, well, maybe I could turn them into cash. So let me sign up and be a vendor. So we packed up our scarves tonight, and we're, you know, heading out there. And on the way there, I decided I should, you know, get some change in case people need change when they buy a scarf from me. And so I noticed that my phone, okay, so I have my phone bill on automatic pay, and it just comes out. And I noticed that my normal phone bill was not debited all the way. It was $81 short, meaning my bill was $215, and they only took $134. And I thought, now what in the world is happening here? And when I pulled up, you know, I went online and I pulled up the account and I looked at it, and for some reason, still unbeknownst to myself, I was credited this $81.31. And that's $5 more than I need to do the hairs. So I thought, yay me! I manifested the money I needed to get the hair done.
Which was actually pretty timely, since nobody was buying this evening.
No, we did not sell a single scarf. But what we did do, however,
yes,
was talk about conscious conversations to everybody who came to see us. And one of the fellers that came by to our booth, mostly we got to know all the other vendors. There wasn't a huge crowd of shoppers, but one of the other vendors was a massage therapist, and he had his chair there, and he was doing 10-minute massages. And Sheila asked him if he does Reiki, and was able to share with him on that front, and they exchanged numbers. And so even though we didn't sell scarves, we definitely were raising the consciousness all over the place.
Yeah, I felt specifically for myself, I don't have scarves, but I told Lisa, I said, I don't know why, but I feel very excited about going to this thing. And so we're obviously supposed to be there for some reason. And we were actually the very last vendors, in that we were the furthest away from the entrance and from everybody. And I finally understood why I felt like I was supposed to be there. There was a little couple that came through. And I don't know, I just feel like for whatever the reason, I was supposed to be there for them. And so they took my card, and I just know that she's going to be contacting me. Her husband's not well. And I feel like I looked at Lisa, I said, that's why we were supposed to be here. And so I don't even know why I'm saying that actually, but I just feel like that's what the whole thing was about, because a lot of folks didn't even come back there where we were. So it was awesome. It was still a really cool experience, because there were children around, and it just, I don't know. And I could tell that I have a local friend here that was there as well. Her and her daughter have a little Etsy shop. And so, I don't know. I just feel like we just carried our energy with us, and it was pretty amazing.
Beautiful. And one of the things too that big visual came to mind for me is, you have a moment there at the end where you're searching. Well, I'm not really sure why we were there, but I think, that was the reason. And you had a few flip-flops there. But think about this too. You had the idea to manifest some things, and you had the idea, or the inspiration is perhaps a better way, to connect with that, and you set out to do this. And my guess is that you drove from where you are now to this place, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So think of yourselves as this, well, you're actually two beings with your Merkabahs, and then you are also riding in the car. But you have effervescence to you, you have different colors to you, you have your energy, frequency, vibrations, you were excited about the night, you're liking being together and doing these things. And so this trail of colors and energy fizzies, that I call them, where it's just little sparkles that go out, and as you get in the car and you drive through the streets, you're actually connecting with, exchanging with, and transmitting all of that out as you drive through the different streets. And when you stop at a light or you stop someplace, there's a pool of it left there because you have a momentary stopping in your forward momentum. And then you go and you park someplace. So now your vehicle, because you've transmitted all this to your vehicle, and it's just, has like a ripples in a pond flowing out from your vehicle while you're not even there. And now you go into this place where you are. So you've already done an awful lot of connecting and transmitting and uplifting for yourselves individually, and then the two of you collectively, for every space and place, neighborhood, energy that you went by. My guess is you probably drove past other houses and other cars and other people maybe walking on the street. So you're not in isolation. You're creator beings who are awake and aware and who know what's coming, and you're playing in the energies, and you're sending this forth in a whole myriad of multidimensional ways. And you just told a wonderful story of how that unfolded today.
Yes, and it didn't matter that I didn't sell scarves. I still got the money I needed and that I wanted, and I wasn't really attached to how it came to me.
Right.
So I felt like I was needed in the room, but I feel that way a lot. I feel like sometimes I'm just needed to sit in a room and hold a thought. And to me, I know I've been in lots of rooms where I am the only one capable of holding a loving thought in that moment. And sometimes that's all that's required of me.
Right. And you play with that requirement. So you have a thought of one way, and so that was your focus. Okay, I want to do the hair. So it could be that the hair was just the setup piece for all the other things that flowed for it, right? Yeah. And since when that thought came to you of the hair, right, then that was a good thing to manifest. And so what you've done too is you've given proof to yourself of how, well, I want my hair done and I don't have the funds, but that's okay because I'm a creator being and I'm going to do it anyways and I'm not attached and this is it. So that's more proof for yourself. And think of the gift that you're giving as you're on this call and it's being recorded. And not only is it going out to those who listen with their physical ears this moment or in the next moments coming up, but now you've also put it on the airwaves, right? So in that actual frequency transmission for the whole planet.
Oh, we rock.
Well, you're right, BZ. I mean, it's not that I wasn't aware of what we were doing. My only thing was I just didn't understand why I felt I needed to be there as well. And it doesn't really matter anymore for me. I just do what I feel led to do, and that's okay. The whole experience for me opened up a creativity point that had been closed for a while. So that's wonderful. I mean, I've been playing with my clay for the last 3 days. So I shared with you that I had a situation where I pulled it all out and then became uninspired. Well, later on that day, I got that inspiration again, only a little differently, and I've been playing in it ever since. So I appreciate your words, because I know that a lot of times I don't look at it the way like you just did. And that's very helpful to me, so I appreciate that. When we were right before we actually left to go there, I had to stop at the craft store. And as we were leaving, I told Lisa, I said, I really wanted to turn around and yell at the top of my lungs, "Happy Portal Day, everybody!" and Lisa said, well, you should have. And I said, well, maybe I should have. But
Really, we've been floaty all day, just really in our happiness.
I just had the picture of in the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, at the end where his heart grows 10 sizes or whatever, and the dog, I think his dog is Max, and Max jumps on the top of the sleigh and it's going down the hill and he's, trooping his Toodle or whatever the Zeus words are. And so you're going, Happy Portal Day as you as you slide back through, spreading your sparkles.
Yes, and I'm telling you, it took everything in my being not to do that.
Well,
I know. Next time I'm not going to stop myself. So.
And, when you just, that and a couple other things that the two of you share with this experience and some other things, pieces from different people's conversations so far tonight on the call, they're all individual illustrations of and giving voice to right at this moment. One of the other big things that's happening that's kind of a new leaf turning or a new flow really opening up at this moment, which will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if we resist it or ignore it or fight against it or pull the pillow over our heads on this particular thing, it's going to cause some frustration and consternation and things arriving not at all how we expected, although we've actually pulled them to us directly. And what I mean by that is that we're now in the space where as we let go of, and it's very important to let go of all things that are a lower vibrational frequency nature. It doesn't mean that we're leaving here and going someplace else, or that things are going to disappear out there. But each thing, whether it's a word or an action or an emotion or a system or any of those kinds of things that you could label, it's important to let all of it go and embrace things in a new, higher frequency. And when you do that, and you come from an expansive, open heart place and not a thinking about it place, then that lets you see what you're aligned with, what that highest frequency for you in that moment is aligned with. And then you can look at what is still there, you know, if you're saying out there, what was out there before, and you're raising your vibrational frequency intentionally, committed to it. And now you look at what's still there, then those are the things that flow, and there's more expansion for you personally, for us collectively in those, and we can keep going. And when it comes to carry that a little further, when it comes to, you know, outcomes or situations, you mentioned, Sheila, you weren't quite sure why you were excited to be there or doing that, or you knew to go there and do that. That's kind of the idea of outcomes or situations or even experiences and creations. So when you're playing with those, we're really in the space now, and the energetic frequency of vibration, that when you manifest something, when you create something, you let it go. So something jazzed you about the idea, even just the playing with it. So maybe if it was about clay, right? And you had these inspirations, but you didn't actually make something with clay. You just had this whole, well, what you popped open was an energy envelope of creation. Even though if someone was standing next to you, they might say, well, but there's no little clay figure here, so you actually didn't create anything. Well, you did, because in that getting jazzed about it, in that flow of the thought and the frequency of creating with the clay, you were doing a whole lot of creating. You just didn't pull a particular thing into physical form and pop it out that way. So what I'm getting at is it's really important as you manifest these things and you play in that energy, whatever it is, that you have now put it out there for all. So you've put it into that stream of creation. You've put it into that field of possibility, and not to be attached to it any longer. So don't hold on that somehow you're thinking, well, I had this creative thought and inspired to do X, Y, or Z, and now I have to make the actual X, Y, and Z where I can pop it out into physical. You may choose to do that. You may choose to have that carry all the way through that energetic vibrational thread, and you may not. Regardless, in the act of having that creative energy window that you've opened up, that frequency, that envelope, you've actually sent it forth out there, and someone else right near you, a world away, can then reach into that and ignite their spark on that. Does that make sense?
I think so. Perhaps that's a bit of what went on this evening.
What do you mean?
Well, there were a lot of folks that, especially in that other room, that were drawn to me when I went on walkabout. Maybe that's what took place.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about the interactions that I had as I walked around in the other room where most of the folks were. We were in a separate room, and I'm just noticing for myself how it seemed that there were a couple of folks that were absolutely just drawn to me, like that masseuse fella.
Yeah.
And so perhaps that's what took place. So I am learning how to dance with those things, even though I don't really comprehend them in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And let that be satisfying.
Right. And
what it is.
Right.
Right. That's exactly right.
Right, because that's not something I've ever done before. This is a brand new thing for me. So, hence the sounding of flip-flopping.
Plus, they served us food and drinks, and I just kept saying, this was a fabulous party. I had so much fun. We left the house. We ate and drank for free. We met new people. It was fabulous.
Yes, it really was. So and there was nothing to be, like, I know my friend was a little bummed because, they only made $3, but, but they weren't looking at it, I guess, the way we were. And so.
Yeah, so that last piece there is a great way to look at. I'm going to use it as an illustration for all of us to look at how we hold our perceptions of things and step into a new way of seeing how we walk in the world as far as creation, reciprocity, value. So the value that we are the value, and how we have exchange of energies for different things. So that was the more quantum description of it. Now I'll give you the very linear description of it. So Lisa, you said we went and we had all this food and drink and a great party and time and experience. It was free. We didn't have to do anything. We got all of this, we had all this stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I would share back in that actually the free part is of the old energy.
Yes.
And so there actually was a tremendous amount of exchange of value for value. So your value, because you are the value, right. And money is just a representational holder that we have in the lexicon that we call, this is money, and I give it to you, and you give me this, and whatever.
Right.
But you did exchange a tremendous amount of value. Your presence there, we already talked about the Merkaba sleigh as you went through all the neighborhoods, right? Yes. And then you went there and you had exchanges with the various people, and there was food exchange back to you. There were things to drink. There was conversation. There was energy exchanges. So this is a really good way to isolate this in a moment of where we are moving to. It's not about the rigid construct of a money exchange. I've got so many dollars or pesos or francs or finnigs or whatever, whatever we are on the planet, what we call it. It's understanding that we are the value. And when I came into contact with something the other day that was talking about, kind of laying a visual for the new earth and the new way things will unfold. And one of the things that was mentioned was that money won't be there. Okay, fine. I was flowing with that. And then they said, it's based on your what you contribute, and that will be what you're investing in it, and then your return on that will be commensurate with what you give that. And when I was coming into connection with the energy of that, I had a feeling of misalignment. And part of that was because then I can hear and feel and sense people thinking, well, if I'm handicapped and I can't work, or I don't know how to do X, Y, and Z, and that's kind of what my investment has to be, then what do? I'm kind of out of luck, or if I don't have a talent. So again, it's very foreign for us in this moment, ensconced in the linear, in the lower frequency vibration of the third dimension, to realize that we are the value, full stop, complete thought, and that an exchange of value, a contribution of same, takes a myriad of different shapes and forms and energy frequencies and actual physicality, popping out. And when we can look at that in a different way, we can really start to play in a whole new level, play on a whole new field. So how is that landing with people, and what do you move to play with from there?
Well, I think that's beautiful, BZ. I totally agree with you there.
Oh, good. Yeah, I loved that. Can you hear me, BZ and everybody?
Yeah,
this
go ahead.
Aja.
Hi.
Yeah, it's interesting. We are talking about this at the end of the year and on the portal day. As many people know, I'm an artist, and I spent a lot of the last couple of years creating things and spending quite a bit of money on them. And there was so much expectation and hope for getting that exchange back. Like what you're saying today, you went and, you didn't get any money, and that was fine, etc. So I'm so looking forward to that, being able to be a creative person, just and creating all these things and having beauty just pouring out of me, and not having that be as it is so often, if you're not paid or reimbursed by money, people just stop doing it. So I thought that was beautiful. I totally resonated with that.
Great. Who else? Where does it show up in your life, the resistance to that, or not understanding of it, or the actually showing up of that a lot? So this is telling for me in this small connection here, and then as the conversation goes out into the ether and the waves, that holding a different perspective, creating that different perspective, actually fleshing out, opening up the envelope windows of that is really needed and incredibly vital to where we're going. And one thing comes to mind, a couple things. There's I use it as a metaphor a lot because because I like to watch them, but because it's a very popular vehicle for people to see and engage with, and that's Star Trek. And there's an episode in Star Trek: The Next Generation where they encounter this group of people from planet Earth on this other planet, and they're stuck for a long time. They come on board the ship, and they're like, well, what do we do? Because we find ourselves, I don't know, hundreds of years or thousands of years in the future from where they were, and what do we do about money? What do we do about all of these different things? What do we do about work? And the point of this particular part of the episode that's so poignant is they say, well, we don't do any of that anymore. Well, there's no need for that anymore. People do what they're good at doing, what they like to do, and they create and they share, and it all works in a cohesive way that all are contributing. And they didn't use these words about their highest good and what they're moved to do, but that's my take on it. And a number of I think there were 7 or 8 of these people who were rescued, and a couple of them said, well, wow, that's pretty cool. I like waking up here. And some of them were having a really hard time with it because they had back then had money. And so, well, wait a minute, if you don't need that, then I actually can't use my money as a superiority over something, or not have to have, now I have to actually be engaged with others because I can't just buy something and put it off on others. And so this idea of, and what's interesting is that it comes out in ways that's very subtle often and very insidious, very kind of corrupting and festering in us because it's so subtle. We don't often notice that we're doing it. And we also don't often notice that we are tied, our worth is tied to that, our whole thought of how we walk in the world is tied to these little things. And this is by design. There's no coincidence that this is the case. And in order to get past all of that, it's another thing to integrate. It's another thing to shift and broaden our perspective on it. So one example is, people can look at the revaluation and the different, if you're at all familiar with any of that, they talk about the different special projects. And again, it isn't something that's for everyone. It's the select few who happen to know about it, and maybe at some time they'll open it up a little further. And there are lines like, well, you won't ever touch the principal, we'll give you interest on it. Again, those are just all things that are the same kind of song and dance with a different party dress on it. And they relate to the limiting of things. There's other people who look at the TDDAs and all of that money flowing in and the thought that, magically everything will be perfect and all set and I don't have to worry about anything again. I'll just, now do what I'm doing. And both of those things and other examples of other things are really important to realize that that's a false, it's a false construct that we're giddily creating because we think somehow we can then bypass the acknowledgement, the internalizing, the getting it on a cellular, emotional, mentality, soul level that we are the value, and that co-creation and the connectivity and the coherence with other beings is what makes, creates, expands everything. And there is no escaping that clause of doing that work, of doing that integration, of owning our own creative power and standing in it.
So BZ, this is Taliesin again.
Uh-huh.
Just to jump in on this note, I love trading of value and bartering. I've done it for many years. Currently, for the last 8 years, in addition to being a life coach and healing practitioner, I am a land steward. And currently I am a land steward of 25 acres of land, and I am the only individual living on it. The owners of the land live about 5 miles away, but I have responsibilities here and things that I do looking out for their interest. But I pay no rent, and it's a very fair trade of value. I also trade with other massage therapists, trading massages and energy work, and it's very, very wonderful. It works really good. I mean, I offer chair massages occasionally at markets and so on and so forth, and a lot of the vendors come over, hey, do you need some vegetables? I'll trade you for a 15-minute chair massage. And it's great. It's great. And it really what it comes down to is people have to look at their belief systems, like you were saying, and that's where the change has to occur within them, so that they see that they actually have value. What it may be something they do or something they produce, and that's really going to be the shift of consciousness. And I totally agree. I think money's on its way out the door very soon.
Yes, and what will aid that and expand us to the other side of that, however that takes shape and form, is the owning. So by that meaning internalizing and fully embracing and owning the fact that we are creator beings, and that something external to ourselves is not where it is. It's not where it's at. It's not how we get what we want, I mean, an example right now in a linear aspect of that is that the reason that, you're always asked to sign things is because that signature is yours. It's your energy signature through the ink on the paper that is the value that actually funds those instruments, those documents that you create with your signature. That's a fundamental truth that's been known by a whole host of people for decades.
Yes.
And not known by any, for a long time. So this is not a new concept by any stretch of the imagination. It's not a new thing about the shift in energies. What is the new part, so to say, is that the evidence of that and just the isness of it is coming to the forefront, is coming into fruition right now, and we can't go back. It's a leaf has been turned, a page has been turned, a spin on the wheel, however you want to use the metaphor. And in this 1212 portal, all of that has been fully, completely, and irrevocably, I really killed that word, irrevocably, irrevocably put into being, and we can't turn it back.
Totally agree. The bridge is burning as we cross it.
Yes.
I don't want to turn. I wouldn't want to, actually.
Me either.
Personally.
I'm wondering why it took us so long to get on the bloody bridge, but there you go.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. I'm ready for that. Over here in North Carolina for the last 4 or 5 years, everywhere I go, I've tried to offer fair energy exchange with folks. This is before I understood that, we are the value. But I always felt like, well, I'll exchange, like you, Taliesin, I always felt like bartering, or, fair energy. I do for you, you do for me, because that's kind of what I've always viewed bartering as. I'm a Reiki master. I make, organic, healthy chocolate without sugar, that sort of thing. And so, but for some reason in this area, up until, and I haven't really gone out in the last, I guess, really year and tried to do anything, but folks just used to look at me like I was speaking a foreign language of some sort. So to hear that, Taliesin, that you've got this set up for yourself out there in California, and I so happy to hear that's wonderful, that's is something that is being done, and I look forward to it soon over this way.
Well, and you can create that now. So when you both were talking, a couple of things came out. So in small ways, to go back to the way Lisa phrased it, well, we went out, we had food and drink, and it was all free. So that's a little moment right there of choosing, of catching yourself saying that, because it's a tiny little thing on one, from one perspective, and it's an enormous thing from another perspective, because it's a placeholder for a whole mentality and a flow and channel of energy that we have been holding, either knowingly or unknowingly, resistantly, or whole hog, just because it's a habit or whatever. The other thing too is that we can create these things right now. And one of the things that's limiting us from creating these things is the thought that, and Sheila just said it right now, well, they're not really into that around here, or different things. Well, my knowing is, it's not just I wouldn't say the word my guess is, but my knowing is that there are all these beings all over the world in all different neighborhoods. It goes back to my analogy, my metaphor I use of the cover on the book. So when I used to ride the train to school or up to the barn or whatever in New York City, and it was, a long, long time on the train, these people would have books in their lap, and they would have, like a different cover, not the book jacket, but something, a cloth cover or whatever, I guess to keep it clean. And I remember at the time when I was just a young teen at the time, I thought, well, they're actually covering their thoughts and the knowings that they have, because they're not certain that it's safe or would be accepted or appropriate, or lots of things came to mind at the time to share them out. And so when we have the thought of, well, people don't really do that around here, my knowing is that they want to. They think about it on different levels. They're not sure how to voice it. And it only takes one to start to bring that into fruition now, because the energies will absolutely support you in doing that. And your own up-leveling and tapping into your abilities, your eye tech will absolutely support you in doing that. And all of you, all of us, everyone.
Well, I won't let it stop me from asking. I'm just saying that I haven't had the occasion in the past year to actually have any of those sorts of conversations, or really be around many folks. So it's not, I'm just saying that this was, prior to that was my experience. I suspect that you're correct, and that it would be different now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and going forward, believe me, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be contacted by at least 2 folks from our little outing tonight, and at least one of them is interested in receiving Reiki instruction, and I'm going to offer that, the fair value exchange. So, and see how it's received, because I feel like you do. I don't think that it's going to continue in the vein that it has.
And there's so many more gifts that really aside from the FRNs or the other forms of currency. There's so many more gifts and connectivity and value that open up when we come it from a different place. So we're actually receiving more. We're getting paid, to use that old term, we're getting paid much more when we connect with it that way than we ever were before, because we don't have blinders on to say, okay, well, that's $10 or $20 or $100 or whatever the bucks are, right? Instead of looking at the wealth, literally, and I mean that absolutely, of all the other things that flow to us, from us, all around us in that exchange.
I wonder though, like, okay, so I want to have my stories, let's say, made into animated films. So how would we, if we don't have money, how would someone who I know to animate things, it's it's very highly, it takes a lot of skill, and it's hours and hours of work. And so, you know what I'm saying? It's a much more complex form of exchange.
Well,
let's say
that's
we have free energy. Let's say we have free energy. We have free energy, so we don't pay for that. So, but like, how would I'm just wondering things like that. You know what I mean?
But you just put a placeholder on it this minute. You said, well, that's more complicated. That's more, so it's a higher level. So again, you're in.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like, how does that look? I can see. I go to my chiropractor. I have a chiropractor, and she and I do exchanges. And so it just seems simple. But how would I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but I'm wondering how would that look? Doing something like a long-term project, making a film. What would we do for an exchange?
Well, that's, since you're one of the parties in that, and you're a part of the creativity, and you're a part of the energy behind all of that expansion, then the best expert on that is you yourself and the other parties that you're co-creating with.
I'm going to drop in here for a moment. I mean, really, from my experience bartering with people, the first thing that comes up is trust. And that's one of the three things that BZ brought up in the beginning here. Trusting first yourself, holding the trust on your own divine line, because that's the only place it exists. And then being able to get through the fear of, oh, well, if I give them this, are they going to return it, or are they just going to walk away? That's where the trust comes in. And so once you agree to something, is an integrity comes in line. People have to, and you'll find out really quickly if well, I don't want to do this. And the fear just goes away. You have to get over that. Fear is just something you walk through, and you learn to trust people, and they learn to trust you. And then you have a wonderful relationship. But in regards to the question that just came up, I mean, I look at it like this. Well, we're moving into a new world where money is going to go away at some point in time. And, as Heather has proven to us through all of her doings, that we are the true value. And there's been a lot of talk of, well, a universal income. Well, what would that look like? Well, really it comes down to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When we get our basic needs met, they're different the basic needs of shelter, food, love, companionship, appreciation, acknowledgement. Whatever they are, the top five for you, believe it or not, they could be different from person to person. Then the next step is, well, all my needs are met. I don't need money. And then, so I can do what I'm passionate about. And so if this gentleman is passionate about doing animated films, and you're passionate about, doing whatever it is, being an artist, it doesn't seem like rocket science to me.
Right. Right.
Oh, I see.
So I'm going to play a little bit further on that. Okay. So we'll because some people really like to play with this idea of the TDDAs. Okay. So everyone that's physically on this call right this moment has access unfettered to the TDDAs. And then the whole world has access to the TDDAs. So one might think, well, okay, wow, that's it. I've hit the mother lode, man. I got this TDDA. There's a bazillion of them, and the zeros and commas keep going infinitum. But okay, and now this artist, Aja, that you're talking about, the person who's the artist at the animation, correct? Right? So he's got his...
Right.
So no longer can you say, well, I got all this money and I can just buy this guy, pay him to do this, because he's got all this money right? So you're on the same level playing field that we're talking about right this moment. So where does the co-creation come in? Where does the co-inspiration and effervescent floating your boat, light you up, jazz you up, come in? How do you find, or where do you find, or where do you create that dance with these other beings who are creator beings who want to do this? So that's,
you just do it because you love it. I mean, you just do it because you love it, and that's why artists do it anyway. So artists are gonna have a real. I think they're gonna have an advantage. Anybody who's doing something from passion, it's going to be so easy for us to move into this because that's why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so go back to your question you had a moment ago, and you've actually just, your energy changed, your colors changed, you answered your own question because you were in that frequency vibration of the knowingness of how to do that. So let go of the question and go be and do it.
And honestly, I can tell you that that's the world I want to live in. I want to live in a world where people are doing things because they love it, because they feel called to do that. I mean, thinking in terms of, because I've had this conversation with friends, we don't need money. And these people are nurses and paramedics, and they think if we didn't have money, then who would do these things? And I said, those who feel compelled to, the people who want to heal because they're passionate about it. And that's really who I want to take care of me. If I'm going to turn to somebody for some, some external source, I want it to be somebody who feels passionate about doing that thing, not because they're doing it because they need money. That's not a good motivator, in my opinion.
Nope.
It's actually the worst thing.
Also, the prestige, the whole ego thing of, I'm a doctor, I make lots of money, I'm a lawyer, whatever. It all goes away because everybody has what they need.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Well, and it goes beyond that because they can truly be who they are, and which is creator beings. But there will be a lot of struggle with that. There will be a lot of resistance to that, because even people who aren't pulling the covers over their head, even people who would describe themselves as being awake and aware and finding things out and resonating with things, have trouble with it. And so the energies are just magnifying all of that now, and we've jumped up. I mean, this is what this portal is. This is what the closing of that grace period really is all about. There aren't any more excuses to holding on to that. And nobody's missing anything. There's not a single component within any being on this planet to equip them with the capabilities to make this jump or to deal with the revelations that are and are about to and will come out. And they're leaping out all the time. So, it's not a sense of, which is part of the hiding and control mechanism of, people can't handle it, and we need to take 50 years to have disclosure and whatever all the various things are. People can handle it, and they will handle it. They'll handle it in different ways, and that's where the work of all of those who are awake and tuned in, tapped in, turned on to their creator beingness, or just starting to and can do that more and more in each moment, where that work comes into being and playing with it. So I'd love to have everybody to just, as you leave and end on this, remember to, as you think about where we played with this, tune back into Randy and connect and send him this conversation telepathically, and any conversations that sprout and grow forth and create from there. And then also, where are the ways, not to give voice to it right now, but just as you play, as you dance down the road, as you're in your Merkaba and you go through in actual physical way or in your mental way or in a telepathic way or sending, as Kimmy had said earlier, your energy out around the globe in different ways. Where are you feeling moved to do that, to expand that, to integrate your own blocks or perceptions or wanting to change how you're holding and languaging something, and then let that send out as a bubble to others to look at, to notice, and perhaps feel moved to do the same for themselves. Accept yourself and love yourself and trust yourself. And most importantly, embrace your own brilliance, because you're amazing. So I see you all, I love you all, and I appreciate you all. Have a wonderful evening.
BZ, before you end, I saw a question in the chat from Gary about Randy, and I was wondering that same thing. Does he have the same restrictions on the type of card?
Oh, that's a good question. Thanks. I didn't see in the chat. Yeah, I'm actually going to put something out, but I'll tell you right now, it'll go out this way, and then I'll also write the post. He doesn't have the same, he can't get 8.5 by 11 postcards anymore, so the big ones. He now, however, can get postcards of any kind and color, and they can have pictures on them. And he can get letters. So I just mailed 5 letters today. I put them in different envelopes, and some were, I typed them all because I have terrible handwriting, but also I wanted to put in some pieces of an article or full articles or whatever. So we'll see if they get through, but that's what I'm being passed along by Patricia, his cousin, to me. So yes, go ahead and send to your heart's content and crayons.
I do have one other question that you may or may not be able to answer. Is he allowed to receive anything like hard candies or anything like that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Let's not float the boat. We got letters.
Well, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that's great. I want to send him a letter, definitely.
Yes, no, I just wanted to make sure, because I thought it'd be cool if, with it being, that he can get, I didn't know. I was hoping maybe he could.
Send him letters and draw on the outside of the envelope and send him, print out something or do a transcription of a Neville Goddard or a Chiron or an article or whatever it is, and a thought that comes to you. So all combinations thereof, go for it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, BZ. Thank you for this evening, and much love to everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, BZ. It was fabulous. I feel really good. Love to everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Good night. Good
Bye-bye.
Bye.